Hi, happy Friday, April 16th. It's Day of the Mushroom, or if you're a trader, National Eggs Benedict Day. It's also World Semicolon Day. You might not realize it, but I just used one. And I probably forgot a few of my code today, too. Anyway, but you ought to remember to like and subscribe without the semicolon or with it. It doesn't really matter. Our top news story is, of course, in the UK. The Ever Given blocked a major waterway for only 6 days, but the effects are far-reaching, and it finally reached the UK in a very deep and personal way with the shortage of garden gnomes. Apparently, the pandemic has encouraged a bunch of people to pay attention to their gardens again, and they require assistance during their sleepy times to ensure that the creatures that inhabit the mythical lands in their backyard remain safe. Some retailers say that the issues with supply, as they have not had gnomes in stock for about 6 months. However, not everyone is on the same page. Harvey McGruggin of the 23rd United Gnome Guild says it's not so much the supply of gnomes as the pay. He says, "We're out here putting our gardens across the great country, and while we love to work outside, we're out in the lawn for 9-10 months at a time, often with nothing, not even a spot of paint to renew our rosy cheeks." The gnomes are not expected to strike out of deference to the Queen, who needs the support of the nation during these trying times due to the loss of her dear cousin and husband, Prince Philip. But after the required mourning period, expect gnome strikes across England. Devastating to their economy. In mass shooting news, at least 8 people were killed in a FedEx facility in Minneapolis. This is the 3rd mass killing this year in Indianapolis, leading some to ask, what the fuck is wrong with Indianapolis? In response to the 3 killings in Indianapolis, the NRA and other mass shooting lobbyists have called for more diversity in mass murder locations. Their statement read, in part, "This madness has to stop. Indianapolis must stop hoarding the thoughts and prayers of our nation." However, in response to that, the U.S. has actually had 45 mass shootings in the last month, 147 so far this year, which helps the U.S. keep up with the average of last year, going down because, the pandemic. The news at Gen will now scroll the list, as reported by CNN, of the past month. Still going? Wow. Fascinating. I didn't think that was a good plan. Anyway, in stopped clock news, Pat Robertson noted the evangelical and anti-gay asshat had something to say about the killings by police officers recently.
After reporting on the killing of Dante Wright, he did a demonstration on set showing the difference between a gun and a taser. He then said this.
I am pro-police, folks. I think we need the police. We need their servants, and they do a good job. But if they don't stop this onslaught, they cannot do this. But why they don't stop this, and this thing is going on in Minnesota, but the Derek Chauvin, they ought to put him under the jail. He has caused so much trouble by kneeling on the death of George Floyd. And the police, why don't they open their eyes to what the public relations are? They've got to stop this stuff. We don't have the finest in the police department. They're low-paid people, Terry. They don't get adequate. It's not a question of trading, it's a question of hiring a more superior workforce, and we aren't doing it. But at the same time, we cannot have a bunch of clowns running around who are underpaid and who really are not the best and brightest. We've got to have the best in there.
Claims that police officers are poor were met with derision from police officer unions. They said, in 2019, police made an average of $67,000 per year. The average person in America made about $40K per year. We're better off than the vast majority of people who we police financially, and due to our position of authority, we're better than them morally, which in America, of course, is the same thing, unquote. That statement went on to note that most scientists agree that 40,000 is less than 67,000, though some may disagree. Anecdotal reports say that police officers are taking a shitty job that's impossible. And further reports say that their reluctance to oust their shitty colleagues makes them shitty too, no matter how many good cops there are. Furthermore, an interesting note is that if you took the money spent on U.S. policing and compared it with the military, it would be the third largest military on Earth, behind only the United States and China. The good news is that now that our young men and women won't have to go overseas to fight war. In Roman Polanski news, France has finally outlawed sex with children under age 15. Really? Previously, specific non-consent had to be in place. I know what you're thinking. What the fuck, France? In old boss, same as the new boss news, President Biden has reversed a pledge to increase refugees allowed in the United States. Trump had lowered the cap to 15,000 people a year, and in February, Biden vowed to increase it to a little over 62,000. In Biden's defense, he was thinking it was February. In response, an aide to the top Republican said, "This shows that Biden is out of touch with the American people." And wait, he's keeping with our guys thing? 15,000, that's too many. Way too many. In Russia news, Russia is expelling 10 diplomats from the United States and implementing travel bans on some U.S. officials, responding to sanctions, responding to election interference. It makes sense when you realize that Russia doesn't want visitors from the U.S. Do you know how many cases of coronavirus we had? Also in Russia news, Russia has built up a military force on its border with the Ukraine. Moscow says it's just to exercise itself because over the past year, with COVID and all, it kind of let itself go. And finally, in the News at Gen news, this is meta news, baby. I've been putting out these shows out on occasion, health and event depending, for 6 months. With my personal very high stress level, I know you can't tell, I can't continue this level of consistent output without making other sacrifices. Some things can't go, like my day job, because I'm not making money to sustain my life and my children with this. What I propose is to do a decent sized show here on Monday, and patrons will hopefully get the show on Sunday. Shorter show on Thursday with patrons getting it on Wednesday, hopefully, is also planned, but that day may be harder to get the Wednesday night, considering it's all done on the evenings after my day job. This should allow me to do more of the following. Allow more interesting and better jokes to float to the surface than hunting for whatever desperate news cycle I can find out, like fucking Gnomes. Allow some time to do proper editing and graphic selections, jokes, and so on. It'll allow for slightly longer episodes to also allow me to game the whole algorithm slightly, just like everyone else on YouTube does. It'll also allow me to start performing live again without worrying about missing deadlines as much. And it'll also allow me to work on the novel editing and writing the next one, which is going to become a big priority for me. And finally, it'll allow me to work on the next big thing. What is that next big thing? Well, that's my website, queercoded.com. Well, I say it's mine, but it's actually property of a company, Queer Coded Media, LLC. That company, Queer Coded, is all designed to create a satire site for and by LGBTQ folks. We're still gaining our footing, so we're learning a lot as we move on, trying to find our voice, trying to find a consistent voice, trying to find new things to do and new ways to work. I'm not the only one working on this stuff for the site. We have a team of over 20 volunteers, and I want to pay them, even if I can't pay them much. I can't pay them at all right now. Dividing my time between these projects isn't helping those projects, those people, or myself. It's tearing me apart, Lisa. A question is the News at Gen part of Queer Coded? Is Queer Coded the next step for what the News at Gen will perhaps be? I don't know. What I do know is that I'm not stopping doing comedy, but I'm doing something else too. And I'd love if you stopped by there. We're currently ad-free, but we've been launching something to help fund us, at least I hope so, in the next month or so. That's really what I'm at. I am overworked. overstressed, and I have way too much on my plate. And I don't think it'll give very much. As I said, the episodes will be a little bit longer, so you'll get just as much as me. It'll just be broken up into more infrequent doses, which is probably best for everyone. I don't want to annoy you, after all. So, because this is Friday, I'll be working on the next episode until Thursday, April 22nd for the next show. So, adios. Not saying goodbye. Just saying.